So people just say, just draw and just practice and you'll get better at art. But what am I supposed to exactly study and practice in order to get better? So today we're going to look at the fundamentals of art and exactly what you need to study in order to become a great artist. So let's get right into it. So before we get into the fundamentals, the first thing that I want to talk about, which is very important, is the use of references. It is very important and critical to use references. And the reason for that is, as an artist, we need to develop our visual library. And the only way to do that is by practicing using references. There's nothing wrong with using references. And in fact, it is one of the best ways to learn and improve. So today we're going to be talking about the 6 fundamentals that I think are important and critical to learn. So the first one is form and structure. The second one is perspective. Then we move to figure drawing. Then we have value and value studies, and then color theory, and finally composition. So by learning all of these 6 fundamentals, we'll be able to master the art of drawing and painting and be great artists. So let's jump right into every single one of these and learn how to study them and get better at them. So let's start learning about form and structure. So the first thing that you need to learn and practice is simple lines and simple shapes. Straight lines, learn to draw simple shapes like squares, circles, triangles. So once you get a little bit comfortable with drawing these simple shapes like squares, circles, and triangles, you can start focusing on 3D shapes, and you can go ahead and start practicing the box, the sphere, the cylinder, and so on. After that, once you get comfortable getting those simple shapes, try and draw the same shapes and then rotate them in space. So if you draw a box, try and rotate it in different angles and different ways so that you get used to seeing these shapes in all the different angles. You can also introduce organic shapes. So boxes, spheres, and cylinders are very specific and rigid shapes, but you can start adding some organic shapes into your practice. And this is where it becomes a little bit more challenging and interesting, but it is very good because it helps you think in 3D and helps you think in shapes rather than just simple lines on a piece of paper. I have made a video on practicing these simple exercises, and you can watch it here where I'll show some basic exercises of drawing lines and simple 3D forms like boxes, spheres, and cylinders. The next thing, which I think is a very underrated topic, is perspective. Learning perspective is one of the most important things, and you might be tempted to skip it because you might think that you understand it. But trust me, this really needs practice, and just understanding the theory of perspective is not enough. You need to practice 1-point, 2-point, 3-point perspective repeatedly in order to understand it very well and see how it would work in different scenarios. So let's quickly take a look at 1-point perspective and how perspective works, and then you can study 2-point and 3-point perspective afterwards. And I will link my videos to the description below so that you can see how does 2 and 3-point perspective work. So perspective, simply put, is there are a few major things to consider. First, we need the horizon line. The horizon line is really kind of the eye level. And then we need a point where we will call the vanishing point. If we want to draw anything, so let's say we want to draw a box. A box, simply put, when it goes into the direction of the depth, it would follow or it would move towards the vanishing point. So if, let's say, we're drawing a building like that, the x-line, this direction and this direction will be the same. It won't go towards any vanishing points because there's only one. And then when we go to the depth, we use this line, this vanishing point line, to draw the box. And that really gives us the first building. So then we can erase that guideline that we had. So then let's say, for example, this is a road. So this comes like this, for example, and then the other side of the road goes like that. as an example. And then let's say we have another building that goes like that. So let's say comes here, then the top of the building goes towards that. So it's always, the depth is always towards the vanishing point. So you can see we're drawing these buildings in 1-point perspective. So that's really the concept or the basics of 1-point perspective. You have one vanishing point right here, and everything that you draw, boxes, cylinders, when they go into the depth of it, they go towards the vanishing point. And when you go vertically or horizontally, they remain as is and they don't converge to a vanishing point. If you're doing 2-point perspective, simply put, you add an additional. So let's say this is the horizon line. You will have 2 vanishing points, 1 and 2. So let's say we want to draw a box. So let's say the box is here. Then we gotta think about the vanishing points. So there will be some vanishing points that go this way, and then a few others that go the other way. So when we try and draw our box, it follows these vanishing points. And that is how you draw a box in 2-point perspective. When we do 3-point perspective, we will add a third one over here. Then these lines will converge this way. So this was a very quick and rough explanation of perspective. I'll link my video where I go in detail into 1, 2, and 3-point perspective, and you can watch that and learn more about perspective there. So once we get perspective done and we have practiced it quite a bit and understand it well, we can move on to figure drawing. There's a lot to learn here, but remember, as I said, it's important to learn form, structure, and perspective first and understand that well in order to excel at figure drawing. So in figure drawing, there is 4 different sections or 4 different things to learn. You have the portrait, then you have gesture drawing, construction drawing, and anatomy drawing. So let's talk about portrait drawings. So when trying to learn the portrait or the head or the face, I really recommend practicing or learning the Andrew Loomis method. And the Andrew Loomis method is very simple, where the head is divided into 3 parts. You have the first third where it is the forehead. Then the line after that is where the eyebrows are. Then the next line that you have here is the nose, and that's where the nose is. And then the last third, you can divide that again into 2 other thirds, and that's where the mouth is. And then you have the chin. And then when you come over here, you can also divide this section here into half, and then another half. And the first half that we did, that's where the eye socket completely sit in. And then the second half, we go a little bit lower on the same line as the nose, where the nose ends, the width of the nose, go a little bit lower, and then we can draw the eye. Of course, these are just construction drawings. There's a lot more to it. And I do have a video where I really explain the portrait and how to draw it. I'll put a link to the video here, and you can watch that and see the details on how the fundamental or the structure of the face is, and you can learn how to draw the head. So once you learn portrait drawing, or at the same time, parallel to learning portrait drawing, you can also start learning gesture drawing. Gesture drawing is a very simple and quick way of capturing the motion of the figure and being able to draw it in, let's say, a minute or 2 minutes. So it's very quick and it captures the essence of the drawing. Proko is a great resource for learning figure drawing in general. And I also really like Michael Hampton's method of doing gesture and construction drawing. And you can search up Michael Hampton on YouTube, and he does have some videos where you can learn from him. But as you can see in the background here, I'm doing a few gesture drawings for practice. And these were very quick ones, but you can see how effective and powerful this tool is. Once you get gesture drawing done, you can move on to the next step, which is construction drawing and mannequinization, where you start putting forms into your gesture. So you can put simple forms like spheres or boxes to represent, or cylinders to represent different parts of the body. And using that, you can start constructing the body in different poses. This is where perspective comes really in place, because if you understand perspective well and you're able to put boxes, cylinders, and spheres in different perspective and different positions, this exercise will be very easy for you because you'll be able to easily put the different parts or different forms of the body in space without any problem. And if you have problems with or trouble with this, maybe go back to perspective and practice it more alongside gesture and construction. So once you learn construction, then you can move on to anatomy. And here there is so much to learn. There's so much about the muscles of the body, how the body moves, in every position, how does the muscle react. So there is so much to learn about this, and it could take a long time to learn and master. But don't get discouraged. I think once you know gesture and construction, you can still make really good pieces with the other fundamentals that you have already learned, and you can slowly start building muscles into it, and you'll be able to learn and understand how the muscles are intertwined with each other on the body. So now you can move on to value studies. So this is something that I think is important before introducing color. So I suggest you ignore color completely and just focus on grayscale in order to learn values and in order to understand how light and shadow work with each other in different scenarios. So find photos or paintings that you like, turn them into grayscale, and try to study and repaint them. Try and guess the values as best as possible. And using that, you'll be able to know how the painting looks like. And this is really a good time to learn about light and see how light reflects on different material, different things, and how it would be painted when you're doing it. And I do have a simple video where I show how light and shadow work on a simple sphere, and I will link it to this video here, be able to watch that. So now you can add color to the mix. So you need to learn more about color theory, what colors work together, what are the different kinds of color harmonies that you can use. I do also have a video here where I show how you can go from a grayscale painting where you've done a value study and add color. So all those paintings that you've done for value studies using grayscale, you can now use the same ones to add color into them. So composition could be a difficult topic to study and learn. And I think it's important to learn a few principles of composition, for example, the rule of thirds or the golden ratio, or sometimes even how you can have different values in your foreground, background, and midground to present a certain type of composition. But a way to study it is to try and find scenes from movies or even some really great paintings that you really like, and try to analyze and see why does it look good? What composition principles did they use? And try to paint something using the same concepts or principles in order to see if you understand how composition works or how that specific composition works. And I think this really takes time. I think you really need to find really good scenes and study them, and in order to be able to master this fundamental of composition. So there you go. These are all the fundamentals of art that you need to study. The important thing to know is that you should really spend the time and practice these, especially the first few. Form and perspective are two of the most important ones. Everything else is based on those two. And if you can learn those two and master those two fundamentals, you'll be able to get a lot more done with the rest of the fundamentals and rest of the drawing techniques. I hope this video was very helpful to you. I will also have a video linked here where I'll be talking about my study plan and how I plan to take my art to the next level by following the next steps in my art journey. Good luck with your art journey and see you in the next video.